So former President Jacob Zuma appeared before the Zondo Commission into state capture yesterday and made explosive revelations. He first claimed the inquiry had only been established to vilify him. He said he was now going to reveal a lot because he'd been provoked to the last degree. Zuma claimed he'd been targeted by the ANC because of his previous position as the organization's head of intelligence, accused former cabinet minister Ngoako Rmathlodi of being an apartheid spy, and said there was nothing wrong with his friendship with the Gupta family. Zuma will appear again today and is expected to be grilled by a commission evidence leader, Advocate Paul Pretorious. Xolani Dube, political analyst from the Xubera Institute, is here in studio with us to talk a little more. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live again.
Morning, Leanne.
All right, so Xolani, let's talk to what you found with the former president's testimony yesterday and his angles, and very much so coming in as a victim. What did you make of it?
There is nothing new because the man was in character, and what he told us is what we've been hearing before. And so I think really South Africans were not that excited. And moreover, I think South Africans are becoming more and more worried about the direction of this country, because it seems as if the more the ANC infighting happens, they try to arrest us to the past. They are taking back us to the past. They don't want to take this country forward. And so for South Africa still to dissect and be thrilled about the stories of the ANC in exile, in Morogoro, and so forth, I don't think that is really is taking us, this country, anywhere. Because the question that we have to be dealing with, who are these rogue elements in the ANC, and how can we take our country forward? But for the mere fact that so-and-so is a spy, we've heard it before, saying president of our country is a spy. And also Matthew Poswa made another allegation saying Didi Mabuza is a spy. And I don't think that this thing is taking us anywhere. It seems as if we are moving around the circle. Possible. We are stagnated. We don't have ideas to take this country forward. And hence you see the ANC using one and the same language of saying that one is a spy and so forth. But underneath all this, I've noticed a serious hatred amongst the members of the ANC.
This is something that we certainly are picking up. And but let's talk to, I know that you mentioned that we obviously started off with the president going almost on for 3 hours talking about his background, coming from being the victim, being vilified, going all the way back to the freedom fighter days, and basically trying to set the tone for how he has always been at the brunt of a plot against him, and that this doesn't surprise him. I mean, to use basically what he said that the Zondo Commission is a culmination of a global intelligence plot to get rid of him. So do you not think that perhaps that background information was important to put us into perspective as to what's happening today?
We had it during the Heifer Commission.
So nothing new has come out of this?
There's nothing new. Seriously, it's just a waste of time for him to take us back and to lay grounds. I think he was trying to intimidate and plant confusion to say, I am the victim. Everything that is happening here is a victim. Look, he is the president of the country. The Heifer and also the Zondo Commission were the product of the ruling party. But when they're supposed to explain their act in this commission that they sanction, they start to play a victim card. I think it's kind of a shame to South Africans that we as the black Africans, where we are supposed to take this country forward, but we are going back to Morogoro, we are going back to Kwambe, we are going back to the squabbles of the ANC past. And so, as I've said, we have traveled to the past. We have not traveled to the future.
Yeah. Let's look at some other issues that were brought up. Zuma even questioning once again the definition of state capture. It's not the first time he's done this. And he keeps on talking to, how can you even call this state capture? And then he goes and talks about the different arms of state. Are they all captured? I mean, you know, how can you even call this state capture? And trying to throw it back in the Commission's face. What do you make of this? It's something that he constantly emphasizes.
Look, you know, it's the same thing like scorpions. It's the same thing like public protector. I think, as I've said it before, the ANC, they always try to dismantle the institution that they've created to protect the South Africans. When these institutions start to ask their acts, and then they start to go on a very unthinkable act from the perspective of a ANC that was conceptualized to fight for an unjust society. South Africa has got so much things to do, and we can't seriously be sandwiched between the so-called the RET and the so-called the white monopoly capital. But the fact of the matter that the RET is so proud and is so vocal is the reality that they have appropriated the historical mishaps or the historical misfortune of the black people. Because when you talk about the issue of land, when you talk about the issue of economic transformation, we are touching the sensitive nerves of the black people of this country. And so Jacob Zuma and his lot, they are using that sensitive issues that we are trying to fight for. But if we look, what contribution are they making in order to move forward and in order to attain this land expropriation without compensation and radical economic transformation? Really, it seems as if they are sending us to the village of nothingness. We have not achieved anything as the country. South Africa, as we speak, to a certain extent, the point of analysis are converging to the reality that we are becoming a failed state. That's the debate that we are supposed to be discussing, rather than for someone to say that one is a spy and that one was not a spy. Because in this country, we have worked with the FUW de Klerk, we have worked with the Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, and we have worked with lots of other people. National Party has been in the government. And so why today we have to deal with individual who was a spy and who was not a spy really is a waste of time.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the commission has been set up to try and figure out what's going on. And a lot of people thinking to the fact that perhaps the president will be using this to spill even more beans. I mean, he's talking about who introduced him to the Gupta family. I just want to get back to the crux of what was spoken about yesterday. Talking about Isa Pahad being the man who introduced him, talking to the fact that Mbeki and Mandela actually had much closer relations with the Gupta family than he did. And also just talking to the fact that there was nothing illegal about his relationship with the Guptas. Let's talk to that, because many people thinking that that is the heart of state capture.
Look, we have read The Thinker. If you go to The Thinker, everyone who have read The Thinker, obviously the Gupta supported that particular magazine. And the Guptas has been involved in some of the government, committees during times of Thabo Mbeki, and even in the social media. We have seen Thabo Mbeki praising the Guptas and so forth. But the question that we have to ask ourselves seriously, Leanne, can we be at ransom with the squabbles of the ANC, the internal squabbles of the ANC, to an extent that it becomes the national discourse? That's the reality. The squabbles that are happening in the ANC can really become the South African or the national discourse. I think that also speaks to the South African intellectuals to say, really, how do we extrapolate us from this ANC that is really taking us to a different direction, rather than to a direction where we really emancipate the black population of this country that is still entrenched in the colonialism and in the apartheid, unjust system.
Yeah. If we again look at yesterday and some of the issues that were raised and the questions asked to Zuma, and many of them he couldn't actually answer. He kept on sort of having a memory lapse and not saying, oh, no, I actually don't remember that, and I'm not too sure about that. And he didn't answer a lot of the questions that were actually given to him. Do you think that's going to be the tone that we're going to hear through the rest of the week? He has his narrative, and he's there to tell his story, but not necessarily to answer the questions that are going to be posed to him.
Look, I think JZ has studied us very well.
Yeah.
He knows that
this is the truth.
He knows that we are gullible. You got I mean. He knows that we are a society that is so vulnerable. You got I mean. Maybe we want entertainment rather than to deal with the issues. That's why he can laugh at us. You got I mean. Because he can see that at the end of the day, No one is going to go to jail. You get what I mean? And so it's another form of a generation soapy that we are watching with really no kind of an end result. And so that's the sad part that we are facing, to say, at the end of the day, Vuskoane, he came to the Zondo Commission, he spilled the beans, he took the fall. Immediately after that, he is representing as a South African in Netherlands. And not even a single person ever said, look, let's go to the airport. Let's prevent this man going outside this country to represent us. It shows the vulnerability. It shows that South Africa is so porous in terms of maintaining the so-called, those who are doing wrong against us, who are doing wrong against the name of this country. Because if we were that kind of a society that is up to social justice and an active society, trust me, today Vuskoane was supposed to be inside the country. And so for the mere fact that he's outside the country, and also that Jacob Zuma can giggle, can laugh at us, he knows that there are no consequences in this whole thing.
Yeah. Do you think, what do you think the next couple of days hold for us? I mean, do you think that it's just going to pretty much so be the same narrative that we've been hearing all the time from our president? And he has a very good way of speaking in circles, as you say, to us, to make us sort of think, well, what did he just say there? And trying to make us believe things that perhaps we wouldn't normally believe. But I mean, are we going to get anything out of the president this week?
We've been with him for the 9 years. And so what is a week? We've been with him for the 9 years. What is a week? We've been with the ANC for the past 25 years. And so what is a week? Yeah. What can you expect in a week when we have not get anything out of 29 years or out of the 9 years? And so I think the question itself is very rhetoric, yeah, and is a very painful one, because we live in hope. But now, the reality, we are in a hopelessness.
Let's talk to Rmathlodi, Ngoako Rmathlodi yesterday. We know, you've spoken to it, that Zuma basically calling him a spy. But then we have a statement automatically coming out from Rmathlodi saying, absolutely not. In fact, Zuma is the spy, and I am happy to do a lie detector test. I know you mentioned right at the beginning of the interview that this is like, almost like the ANC fighting its internal battles in the public, and this is what this has turned into. But I mean, what did you make of that?
Look, if there's a spy in the ANC, and so who is not a spy? Because it's a word against each other here. Number of South Africans don't know who was a spy and who was not a spy. The people that JZ said they gave him the names of spies are no more. You get what I mean? And so, look, it's just a game of hatred amongst the ANC leaders. But you'll see a number of other sheep who will believe these things, who will believe these fairy tales. And so I think South African really, they are so vulnerable. They are so, I don't know, it's so sad that even us in this morning, we can really try to understand this fairy tale, of which at the end of the day, Leanne, let us be honest, we are not going to understand what the man was saying, because as they say, it's conspiracy. In conspiracy, there is no proof, there is nothing. It means that we are chasing a mirage here.
Well, let's focus as well on the issue of the Ruperts and Johan Rupert. And again, Zuma coming out and saying that Johan Rupert basically saying that he will destabilize the economy if he fires Gordhan. And that news coming via the sports minister at the time, Fikile Mbalula. What did you make of that? I mean, again, are the media going to look into that? It's a big statement to make, that a family, which is the Ruperts, are going to destabilize an economy by threatening this if they fire a minister. Very much so the same as what allegedly the Guptas have done.
Look, we have to understand that every country is under the dictatorship of the ruling elite. You get what I mean? There's a discourse that South Africa is supposed to be discussing to say, how do we deal with the ruling elite? Is the ruling elite really a patriotic one? Or is a ruling elite that simply exploits our resources and transport it to the gains of those resources to somewhere else? I think it will be it won't be kind of a clear-cut analysis right now, because it's convoluted by a number of factors, the issues of Rupert and the issues of Gupta. But what was very evident is that yesterday he could despise the Rupert, but he could, on the other side, protect the Guptas. You get what I mean? He would tell us that he sees nothing wrong with the Guptas, but there is something wrong with the Rupert. And so it shows that the ANC, as a political organization, has been scavenging on the patronage of this elite. And so maybe Cyril Ramaphosa is scavenging on the elite of the white monopoly capital, and the other ones are scavenging on the patronage of the so-called international lumpens or the international criminal syndicate. And so where's the South Africans? We are sandwiched between the white monopoly capital scavengers and also the international criminal scavengers. But the sad part is, as the South Africans, where are we scavenging?
Well, let's leave it there. Thank you for your views and opinions here on the program. Xolani Dube, he is a political analyst from Xubera Institute, talking to us about our former President Jacob Zuma's testimony at the Zondo Commission. All right, the time is 7 o'clock. Let's bring you up to speed with the latest from the news. It's over to Sakina.